They laughed. Not nervously, not awkwardly. They laughed like it was entertainment. The sound of his hand hitting my face came first. The laughter came right after. That was the moment I learned how loud silence can be when no one steps in. My name is Hannah Cole. Before that night, I believed embarrassment faded and marriage meant patience. I believed love could survive anger. I believed if I stayed quiet long enough, things would get better. I was wrong. It happened at his office in Dallas, Texas, a modern building with glass walls and bright lights. My husband, Mark, worked there as a senior project manager. That evening was a company mixer. Music, drinks, casual conversations. Spouses were invited. Mark insisted I come. "You need to show support," he said that morning, adjusting his jacket in the mirror. "My coworkers need to see you." I wore a simple black dress, nothing that stood out. I didn't want attention. I just wanted the night to end peacefully. At first, everything seemed fine. Mark smiled, shook hands, introduced me like a trophy he had polished for display. "This is my wife, Hannah," he said, his hand gripping my back a little too tightly. As the drinks flowed, Mark changed. His smile grew sharper, his words heavier. He started interrupting me when I spoke. I brushed it off. Stress, I told myself. He's under pressure. Then it happened. Someone joked about deadlines. I made a small comment, light, harmless. "At least now he'll remember to come home before midnight," I said, smiling. A few people laughed. Mark didn't. His eyes darkened. In one fast movement, he turned toward me and slapped me across the face. Hard. My head snapped to the side. My ears rang. For a second, I couldn't breathe. The room froze. Then someone laughed. Then another. Soon, laughter spread like wildfire. Mark leaned close and whispered through clenched teeth, "Don't ever make me look stupid." No one helped me. No one asked if I was okay. No one stopped him. I stood there, my cheek burning, my heart pounding so loud I thought they could hear it. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Instead, I smiled. Not because I was fine, because I understood something. That smile confused Mark. He stepped back, embarrassed now, pretending it was nothing. "She's dramatic," he said to the room. "You know how wives are." More laughter. That night, I didn't cry in the car. I didn't cry when we got home. I didn't cry when Mark fell asleep without apologizing. I cried at 4:17 a.m., alone in the bathroom, sitting on the cold floor, my face pressed against my knees so no one could hear me. I stared at my reflection. My cheek was swollen. My eyes were empty. I whispered, "This ends." The next morning, Mark acted normal. He poured coffee, checked emails, didn't mention the slap. "You good?" he asked casually. "Yes," I replied. That was the first lie I told him. From that day on, I watched instead of reacted. I listened instead of spoke. I learned how easily people underestimate quiet women. I remembered every face that laughed, every coworker who looked away, every second of that humiliation. This wasn't about anger anymore. It was about control, and I was done letting him have it. I didn't plan revenge overnight. I planned survival first. I learned my rights. I started saving messages. I documented every insult, every threat, every bruise he pretended to not notice. Mark thought he had broken me. What he really did was wake me up. The slap lasted 1 second, but what I would do next would last the rest of his life. The days after the slap felt unreal, like I was moving through someone else's life. Mark didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He didn't even acknowledge what he had done. To him, silence meant it was over. To me, silence meant I was finally seeing him clearly. Every morning, he kissed my forehead before leaving for work, like that single act erased everything. I stood still, letting it happen, my body stiff. He never noticed, or maybe he did and chose not to care. I started paying attention to details I had ignored for years. The way he checked my phone as a joke, the way he corrected my words in front of others, the way his anger always needed an audience. I realized the slap wasn't sudden, it was just the first time he felt safe enough to do it publicly. A week later, my cheek no longer showed bruises, but something inside me stayed swollen and sore. I went back to that office building once, alone. I sat in my car across the street, watching people walk in and out, laughing, living, untouched. I wondered how many of them remembered that night. I wondered how many of them would speak if asked. That thought stayed with me. At home, I became quieter. Mark liked that. He called it peace. He told his friends I was finally learning how to be supportive. "You've changed," he said one evening, pleased. "Yes," I replied honestly, but not the way he thought. I opened a new email account he didn't know about. I backed up everything: texts, voicemails, photos. I wrote dates and details in a small notebook I hid inside an old shoebox. This wasn't anger anymore. This was preparation. One night, Mark came home late, drunk again. He accused me of hiding things, of judging him. His voice rose, his hand lifted, then dropped when he saw me watching him calmly. That scared him. "Don't look at me like that," he snapped. "Like what?" I asked. "Like you're waiting for something." I smiled slightly. "Maybe I am." The next day, I took a day off work and visited a women's legal center downtown. I didn't tell them everything, just enough. The counselor listened without interrupting. When she finished, she didn't rush to speak. "Abuse doesn't start with violence. It starts with control," she said gently. I nodded. I already knew. She explained options: documentation, legal steps, exit plans. I didn't leave with fear. I left with clarity. That weekend, Mark hosted a small dinner with coworkers, the same people who laughed. I cooked, I smiled, I played drinks, I played the role perfectly. One of his coworkers, a woman named Claire, avoided my eyes all night. When everyone else went to the living room, she lingered in the kitchen. "I just want you to know what happened that night wasn't okay," she whispered. I looked at her, really looked at her. "Thank you," I said. That was all, but it mattered, because silence breaks slowly, one voice at a time. Later that night, Mark bragged about work, promotions, power, respect. I listened, and I remembered everything. In bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized something important. I didn't need to destroy him loudly. I just needed to let the truth breathe. And once it did, it would do the rest on its own. The truth doesn't rush. It waits. I learned that in the weeks that followed, as I moved through my days like a shadow, present, quiet, unnoticed. Mark grew comfortable again. Comfort makes people careless. He started talking more, bragging more, complaining more. He didn't realize every word he said was another thread pulling his own world apart. At work, his temper slipped through cracks he couldn't control. Missed deadlines, sharp emails, meetings where he talked over people and blamed them when things went wrong. I didn't push him. I didn't warn him. I let him be exactly who he was. At home, I kept notes. Not dramatic ones, simple facts. Dates, times, words. March 12th, shouted for 20 minutes over dinner. March 18, grabbed my wrist, left marks. March 21st, threatened to make me sorry if I embarrassed him again. I learned how powerful calm writing can be. One evening, Mark brought home 2 coworkers, men who had laughed that night. He wanted drinks, noise, praise. I served them quietly. One of them couldn't look at me. The other joked too loudly, like guilt needed volume. Mark drank too much. By the time they left, his mood had shifted. Anger hummed under his skin. He accused me of acting superior. He said I was judging him with my silence. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I pressed record on my phone and set it face down. "Say that again," I said evenly. He did. Louder. I let him finish. Then I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and locked the door. I sat on the floor until the sun came up, listening to him pace, curse, threaten, then finally pass out on the couch. The next morning, he remembered nothing. I remembered everything. A few days later, I met Claire for coffee. She had messaged me first, said she wanted to check in. We sat in a small cafe near her office. She kept her voice low. "He's not well liked anymore," she admitted. "People are afraid of him. HR has noticed." I nodded, stirring my drink. I'm not surprised. She hesitated. If anyone asked me what I saw that night, I'd tell the truth. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't rush to HR. I didn't file reports. I waited. Because timing matters. Because credibility grows when patterns are clear. Mark, meanwhile, grew paranoid. He checked my phone again, asked where I went, who I talked to. His control tightened as his confidence slipped. "You're different," he said one night. "You think you're smarter than me now?" "No," I replied. "I think I'm awake." That angered him more than any insult ever could. The first official crack came on a Friday afternoon. Mark stormed into the apartment early, pale and shaking. "They called me in. HR." I stayed calm. "Why?" "Someone complained," he snapped. "Some idiot said I'm intimidating." I looked at him gently. "Are you?" He froze. That pause told me everything. Over the next week, more meetings followed. Closed doors, short answers. Mark stopped sleeping. He drank more. He blamed me without saying it directly. "You poisoned them against me," he accused one night. "No," I said quietly. "You showed them who you are." The tension snapped 2 days later. He raised his hand again. This time, I didn't flinch. I stood up, walked past him, grabbed my bag, and left. I didn't go far, just to a small hotel downtown. I slept for 12 hours straight. The next morning, I called my lawyer. "I'm ready," I said. By the time Mark realized I wasn't coming back, it was too late. Papers were filed. Accounts were secured. Evidence was copied and stored safely away from him. He showed up at the hotel once, begged, cried, promised therapy, change, love. I listened without feeling anything. Because love doesn't leave bruises, and laughter should never follow pain. The company put Mark on leave that same week. The truth had started breathing, and it was getting stronger every day.